everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just Read It, MCKay.
I'm MC.
And I'm Kay. In this episode, we are going to be continuing our ACOTAR deep dive with chapters 9 through 19. Let's get into it.
Yay!
Okay, jumping into chapters 9 through 19. So we got a lot more information in these set of chapters than we did in our last set. A lot of back and forth between Feyre and Lucien and Feyre and Tamlin. So just real quick to go over kind of the top level overview of what happens in these chapters. We get Feyre going out on little hunts with Lucien multiple times, and then Lucien kind of pushing her into hanging out with Tamlin more and pushing Tamlin to hang out with her more. So we get her going to the study as well, trying to teach herself how to read, how to write a letter to her family. And then we also get into some action with her trapping the Suriel and then being attacked by not only the Bog, but the Naga as well. So deep dive into our chapters a little bit more. Feyre often seeks out Lucien in an effort to try and get him to talk Tamlin into finding a loophole for the whole treaty so that she can go back home. They go on little hunts together, but they don't catch anything because they're not actually hunting for anything. Really, it's just Lucien taking Andrus's, the wolf, taking his shift as the sentry since he is the one that she killed. While they're out hunting, they do run into the Bog. Thankfully, they manage to not provoke it and actually get back without being harmed. But the Bog sounds like a very interesting kind of creepy character. So it's described as a shimmering in the corner of her vision, and the woods around seem to recoil and wither and freeze. The temperature drops with this creature, which I'm going to point out now because I'm going to point it out in later things. Visually, there's nothing there. It's just a feeling of coldness whispering past, and a voice in the back of her mind that sounds ancient and hollow. And it pretty much just tells her that it's going to grind her bones between its claws, drink her marrow, and feast on her flesh. It does specifically say, I am what you fear, what you dread, and it begs to be looked at. It's so cold. Feyre mentions that her teeth are chattering, and Lucien tells her as long as you don't acknowledge it, it won't hurt you. It's when you acknowledge it or you look at it, that's when it becomes real and it can kill you. Like I said, they end up coming back without issues. And over the next couple of chapters, Tamlin does go out to kill it. And at one point, he kills it and comes back with a bite mark on his hand. And it says the bite was crafted to slow the healing of High Fae long enough to kill them. So we've seen in other series by her that there are other bite marks that happen that either kill someone or slow their healing. So there may be a little bit of a crossover with our creatures here, but we don't know for sure. We get a lot of back and forth between Feyre and Tamlin. He's kind of attempting to talk to her more, get to know her a little bit more. She's not really on board with that. She doesn't really want to talk to him, just wants to find a way to get out. But eventually he does kind of inform her, I have taken care of your family. There's nothing for you to worry about. And so we start to see her realize that what she had dreamed is actually happening, because she had dreamed that they were taken care of and that she just had enough time to paint. And now she does. She hasn't gotten the courage to ask Tamlin for paints yet, but we start to see her kind of start delving into herself a little bit more, trying to figure out what it is that she wants to do now or what the purpose of her life should be. She often describes herself as feeling hollow and empty now without the weight of the promise, and that she's kind of just left to brood over the consequences of firing a single arrow. So we do start to see her feel more remorse for what she's done as well. We do have Tamlin asking her, which I think is interesting. He brings up that she can't write or can't read. He asks her about it a couple of times. He does offer to help her multiple times throughout the couple of chapters, thinking ahead. It's a very different approach from what other people take when we get to there. But instead of pushing her to actually do it, he's offering to help, which is nice. But at this point, she's too mortified to actually take him up on it. So he's not really helping. She does end up in the study or the library. We have kind of a little Beauty and the Beast moment where Tamlin takes her to the study. Once there, like I said, she has zero interest in having Tamlin help her. So she tries to write her letter to her family just to let them know that she is okay. She can't write it because she can't read or write very well. While she's there, she does find a map of the world, which is the whole world. We only get part of the world in the books. The map in the front of the books is actually just about our world, or the section of the world that is taking place in that book. So we get that the island, it's really a continent that they're on, is called Prithian. Obviously, all the Fae are above the wall, humans are below the wall, and there are 7 courts that are ruled by the High Fae. Then we get our bad guys, who are off on the island to the west, which is the island of Hybern. And then we get references to the continent, which is a very vast land to the east that also has Fae and humans. But outside of that, we don't get any other information on the broad world other than it is a very large world. So is it part of another world? Maybe. We can't tell because we just get this little view and that's it. We do get a little bit of a story or a background on the way things came to be, kind of a creation type story. She says that it began with a cauldron, a mighty black cauldron held by glowing, slender female hands in a starry, endless night. So I'm going to point it out throughout this series and the other series that we get a lot of like starry night, starry type things throughout the books as far as definitions for things. And the stars just seem to be a big part of the Maas verse to begin with. But yeah, those hands tipped it over the cauldron over gold, sparkling liquid pouring out over the tip. Not sparkling, but effervescent with small symbols, perhaps some ancient fairy language, which is our second mention of an ancient fairy language. The first one was when Feyre was describing the marks on her house, and the person who put them there spoke in a language that could have been a form of Fey language that she is not familiar with. So, second time, we have the mention of an ancient Fey language, saying that the liquid was poured out, dumped into the void below, pulling on the earth to form our world. So she says our world, whether that's just the itty bit of part of the world that we get, or if it's a more broad version of the world, we don't know yet. She does notate that there is no mention of humans on the original map, so it makes you wonder at what point the humans came to this world, if they just weren't mentioned on the map, or if the map was created a long time ago and humans came after it. It's odd in the way that she mentions it. It just sounds like the humans came afterwards. We don't know for sure. At one point, she gets frustrated because she can't write a letter and she doesn't want Lucian to help her or Tamlin to help her. So she does decide to go out and hunt the Suriel, which all of us in the fandom love the Suriel, like our little gossip girl. She is not a she, first of all. It's a he. And second of all, it's not nice. Like, it's scary, especially when you listen to the dramatized version. Like, it sounds scary. But she goes out to hunt the Suriel because the Suriel is supposed to give her all the answers. So, description on the Suriel: it is old and wicked, spindly, scabby gray arms with yellow cracked fingernails, dark veil draped over its bald head, blowing in a phantom wind, which Sarah loves to use that phrase in her books, especially when she's talking about Keltane in Throne of Glass. So many people believe that there could be a little bit of a crossover. It's not, but we would love if that was the case. The Suriel is a lipless mouth, 2 long teeth, blackened gums, and slitted holes for nostrils. Crafted from dried, weather-worn bone, skin either forgotten or discarded. So pretty much it's like a skeleton, is how I picture it, in a robe. So like a Dementor from Harry Potter or the Ringwraiths from Lord of the Rings, like that's just what I picture in this dark cloak. Not some fun little gossip girl type
I thought it was interesting between the audiobook recordings how different they make the serial sound. Between at least the first version and then the 10th anniversary, they make it sound super like old, like an old hag, I guess. So I think that's why
Yeah.
people think it may be a woman, because it sounds like an old lady. But then the dramatized, it's like this whole otherworldly sound that's not even anything you can imagine, you know? So
Right?
it's, and then I didn't hear, old hag at all when I was listening to
No.
that. Yeah.
Nope. And reading it, yeah, it's there's no mention
hmm
really of whether it is male or female. Just it is old and wicked. We do get another one of our favorite Sarah J. Maas quotes when she is describing the serial, saying it's old and young, beautiful and grotesque, and my bowels turned watery.
So I've been thinking about that this entire time listening to it again. I've honestly thought that it was more times than that in the first time I read it, but it was only, or you listened to it, but it was only like 3 times mentioned the
Right?
entire, I don't know. I guess you hear that, I'm like, ew, gross. And then you keep hearing it, so you think it's more than it actually is, but it was only like 3, maybe 4 times that it's actually mentioned.
But
I feel
yeah,
like
it's they fix that like feeling and that picture in your head so you remember it.
not only that, like anybody that's got anxiety out there knows that immediate stomach rumble. Oh, gosh. Like, so for me, not only did it depict the ew, but then it was like, oh, but I've been there when something just
Thought
overtakes
the
you and you're like,
same
I don't even
thing.
want to move. Like, so, because when we were listening to the audio version, that's what I got too, was the use of the way she describes this. And then that's kind of gross though. But did he want to worsen to the rest so he could count every times you get watery bowels? Because it's like 3 or 4 times.
Yep,
Not as often
Yes.
though. I thought it was more often too.
I really did too.
I will say, while we're on the serial though, the way she described how white the eyes were, I don't think that resonated with me the first time I read it until I listened to it with that dramatized audio behind it. And then just imagining that pure white. Like you think, oh, maybe evil, maybe not. Okay, I'm going to think darkness. And then you're just imagining these white orbs. And
hmm
that evicted such a like vanilla ice cream. Like you think, oh, something happy and white, and then you think like death, like literally absence of everything. Like it had you with that back and forth. So it
That's a
stuck
good
out
point.
to me when I was going through it again. So I have it on the Kindle right in front of me, and I'm like, yeah, it was just the way it described the white of death, the white of sickness. Because you always think of
Right?
white as pure, as clean, as disinfected, not as death, as
hmm
you know what I mean, the end all be all, because you have to let it get to that point of renewal almost. It was a good one.
The other thing that I like we hear about the serial is that it was older than the High Lords and Prithian, older than the bones of this world. So which other world is it from if it's older than this world? That's what I want to know.
Still want it to be Caltane.
I
I
know,
really do.
but if you think about the timeline, it doesn't really line up. Unless time is like different, moves faster or slower.
Time could be fluid.
So I saw something interesting. I don't know if you have seen the reel going around, but someone explained it as Throne of Glass being the past, ACOTAR being the present, and Crescent City being the future. Have you thought about it that way at all?
Yes,
I don't know how.
because we get Throne of Glass being very medieval. And yes, there's magic. Yes, there's plumbing. There's some basic electricity in the more populated areas. And the cities have it. The sewers, obviously, we have sewers. So you get more of a medieval type vibe from Throne of Glass. Whereas ACOTAR is similar, but it's not discussed as much in ACOTAR than it is in Throne of Glass. So you kind of get more of a feeling that it's like present day. It's, the mansions that when we end up getting to, the night court. I mean, even the spring court, the estate that she's in is probably a little bit more medieval than the night court sounds, but it's like an actual estate. Like I just picture it to be this giant mansion with all kinds of flowers and vines and shrubs just kind of growing all over the place. So I don't think we see it just yet, but I agree. I think when we see other areas in Prithian, then it does kind of give off more of a present day type vibe as far as the descriptions, at least to an extent.
It's just an interesting theory.
Yeah, and then you go to Crescent City and it's like an actual city. They have guns, they have technology. I mean, they have cell phones. So it is a huge difference between ACOTAR and Throne of Glass, which could be why I don't like it as much. But we'll get there. Okay, we also get a little bit of a history lesson with the Suriel, or at least a history lesson that started. It does mention that Tamlin can't give her the answers she seeks. Not that he won't, that he actually can't. She does find out that he is the High Lord of the Spring Court, which we didn't know. But the one thing the Suriel repeats over and over again is stay with the High Lord. That's all you can do. Stay with the High Lord. We don't know which High Lord, but stay with the High Lord. History lesson is essentially that Hybern was part of the war, but its king was not happy with the treaty and what happened after the war, and that they had to give up all their humans. 100 years ago, the king of Hybern dispatched his most trusted and loyal commanders, his deadliest warriors, remnants of the ancient armies that he once sailed to the continent to wage such a brutal war against the humans as spies, courtiers, and lovers, and they infiltrated the various high fate courts and kingdoms and empires around the world for 50 years. We have the deadliest people from the King of Hybern who go off to all parts of the world, not just Prithian, all parts of the world, as spies, courtiers, and lovers. So, one, I want to know who else, other than in this book, is a commander for Hybern. Because that sentence leads me to believe that there are more than just the one, and we just haven't seen them yet. Especially if they went to all parts of the world. We know as we go through, so spoiler a little bit, we know obviously there's a war with Hybern in book 3, but we know that Ianthe is sent from Hybern to the Spring Court. So she is not one of those warriors, but someone from Hybern. We know that Hybern is the first group of Fae to talk to the 6 mortal queens that are the current queens of the human world. And we know that they end up talking them into things, but we don't know what the timeline is. My question is, have those people been in the Queen's court all of these 100 years, kind of laying the foundation for that happening in book 2? Or does it not happen until book 2? Because I feel like it would have to happen before that. But that's just my thoughts. The only other thing the Suriel gets a chance to mention is that about 50 years ago, the Deceiver is what she calls her. We kind of get different names for her throughout this book. This first name is the Deceiver from the Suriel in regards to she's disobeyed the King of Hybern. But at that point, we get cut off. The Suriel is no longer able to continue his little history lesson because we have 4 Naga that come in, which are creepy, creepy characters. They also kind of remind me of like the characters from the Dementors from Harry Potter and the characters from Lord of the Rings, that they have shadowy figures so dark that they seemed made from the starless night, covered in dark scales. This is one part that gets me. Covered in dark scales, a combo of serpentine features and male humanoid bodies. Arms ended in polished black, flesh-shredding talons with razor-sharp teeth and a silvery forked tongue. So that's our description of the Naga from Feyre. They also, though, kind of remind me, and I'm going to have to go back and actually read through it, but they kind of remind me of the Hellhounds in Throne of Glass. Like a cross between an animal and a human.
Okay.
Whether they are the same or some version, I don't know.
Like an evolved version or this world version of how it's adapted to the magic through the world.
Correct.
Okay.
Because we haven't gone into Crescent City yet. And there's at this point, fan theory about the Hellhounds, what they originated as. because we get a sense in Throne of Glass that they may have been shifters, like shapeshifters, like Lysandra. That's what they originally were. But there's a creature in Crescent City that they also sound very familiar to. So I don't know if there's any, relation between one from the other, or if I'm just making stuff up at this point, trying to find things where it isn't. After the Suriel, that's when the Naga come. Thankfully, she screams. Tamlin hears her. She is able to kill 2 of the Naga herself, which surprises Tamlin. And then he ends up killing the other 2 in a very like Beauty and the Beast little scene, where she runs off and he kills the wolves to protect her. Yeah, totally thought of that when I read through that.
Oh, yeah. And then even when she went to help him with his hand
Right?
afterwards,
Oh, yes.
like it continued.
Yep.
The waiting for him to, yeah, it was, and the dramatized version, I'm sure you can both attest to, just made it that much more visual.
Yes.
Imagining that whole scene, I was like I said, didn't notice all of the Beauty and the Beast ties till I listened to it on the dramatized, and then I'm sold now on the Beauty
Yes,
and the Beast
it
ties. Which
is.
first time I read it, I was not. You have to either go into it expecting it or go into it letting it just wash over you. Otherwise, I missed it almost on purpose this time. So now I'm like, okay, I'm opening to it. Fine, I see it. I don't want to see it, but I see it.
Well, yeah, now you see it, and you're going to continue to see it as we go through, at least a little bit more. She is injured during the fight with the Naga, and Tamlin does heal her. We do learn a little bit of Tamlin's backstory and a little bit of his family. He does mention that the Fae helped the humans fight for their freedom in the war 500 years ago. That Tamlin wasn't old enough to fight in the battle. That he was just a child at that point. But if he had been old enough, he would have fought against slavery, tyranny. I would have gladly gone to my death, no matter whose freedom I was defending. Which Feyre is just like, well, good for you, because I don't think I would. That is when we also get more information on what Tamlin has done to her family as far as providing for them, but he also tells her that he has glamored her family to think that she is off with a family member who is dying, and to completely forget a giant beast burst into their hovel and pretty much kidnapped her. They have been glamored to forget that. Feyre kind of dives a little deeper into her emotions and her self-awareness, and is just like, well, now my family's going to forget me. Like, I can never forget them. Has a little bit of kind of self-pity for herself. She does go through a period where she's annoyed with Tamlin for doing it, which I find very interesting. She realizes that magic is all around her, and it isn't just like abounding. It doesn't just live there. It actually grows there. And she considers that maybe the magic had been kind of lulling her into a sense of like false safety, getting her to not think about her family or think about the blight that's happening. And that Tamlin has kind of gone along with it to let her forget and provided her with things to distract her so that she stops asking questions or stops asking to leave. Feyre does finally ask for paints, and Tamlin, all excited that he's finally figured out what she wants to do, agrees to get her paints and to open the gallery, but he wants to have it cleaned first because no one has used it in a while, which I think is interesting that we get Tamlin saying that he closed the gallery off when he became High Lord because it seemed like a waste of time to have it cleaned. So pretty much he becomes High Lord when he's not supposed to be, which we also find out a little bit that it's because his family was killed by another High Lord. So he becomes a High Lord when he's not supposed to be, and he doesn't really know what to do. He wasn't raised to become High Lord. So he kind of goes into being a High Lord with little care, little effort that he's put into it because he's a warrior. He's not someone who's been trained in any of the court aspects. So he often talks about how he can't, much like Feyre, he can't speak to high lords in the same manner. He doesn't play the court game. But I think it's interesting. I'm going to point it out now so we can point it out in a book or two later that he does not put any emphasis or care on art. He is all about being a warrior and making sure his lands are protected, but outside of that, he doesn't really go above and beyond. So I think that kind of foreshadows things that are going to happen in other books. And when we start to see other areas of Prithian, the differences between his court and the other courts, and the emphasis that he doesn't put on anything other than the bare minimum, doing the bare minimum. Oh, Tamlin. We do get Feyre starting to dream, which is so fun to talk about. So she started dreaming about killing the wolf, being back in the glen, and watching the wolf watch her before she even takes the shot, which doesn't actually happen. It doesn't see her until after she shoots him the first time. But in her dream, it's watching her and just kind of waiting for her to shoot it, to kill it. And she doesn't want to. Whereas when it actually happened, she wanted to kill it. Now she doesn't want to because she's starting to feel that remorse. The other dream that we start to see reoccurring is that she is being tortured by a redheaded pale woman. So we know down the road this is our main bad guy for this book. So it's interesting that Feyre is dreaming about her. And throughout all of her dreams, she mentions that there is a shadow lurking behind her, kind of watching over her. So we know who the shadow is. Spoiler alert, we know it's Rhysand. We find out later in the books that he has been essentially dream sharing with her. So it makes me wonder if he can dream share with her. That's what I'm going to call it, dream sharing. So if he can go in, if he can dream about things that are actually happening in her life, why can't she dream about things that are actually happening in his life? Because at this point, she's never seen the evil woman. So where is she getting that image? She does mention in her dream that she's faceless. So we know she doesn't get a full picture, but we know that she is pale, having been under a mountain for 50 years, and she is redheaded. That's all we get.
And that she has long red nails, isn't it?
Yes.
Doesn't that say that in there too?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we get little bits and pieces. So it makes me wonder how she's getting those bits and pieces.
Yeah. I've been racking my brain trying to figure it out too. So I'm a little fuzzy with the later books because it's been an entire year since I have read them. So I know now, though, that it's Rhys putting Amarantha in her dreams. Also, I found it funny that she never mentions or puts together the dreams of Amarantha after seeing her. She never mentions that again. And remind me how Rhys already knew about her.
Only from his dreams.
So he was dreaming about her.
Yes. When we get to towards the end of book 2, when they decide that they're actually going to be a couple and accept the mate bond, he goes back and tells her like an in-depth story of the last 3 years that he's been dreaming about her. So he goes back and gives her like little snippets of what he has dreamed. So it's safe to assume he's dreamt of her more than what he tells us. But a couple of the things that he mentions are seeing little snippets of the things that she's painted throughout the house. And he actually is able to influence her when she's painting the dresser for her sisters and herself. So she paints one drawer in flames for Nesda, one drawer in flowers for Elaine, and then for herself, she wasn't sure what to paint and ends up painting the night sky. So when she is painting that, Rhys is dreaming and seeing what Feyre is seeing, albeit it's a little bit blurry because she's on the opposite side of the wall. But he is seeing what she's doing, and that's how he kind of influences her to paint the stars, essentially, for the night court. So little snippets like that. He also got snippets of her and Isaac rolling around in the hay, because he mentions seeing hands grabbing. I think those are the three main things that he mentions having seen from her. But like I said, it's safe to assume she's having dreams where she feels a presence behind her. Presumably, all of those dreams that she's having, Rhys is there. He's also in them. Whether he is influencing them or not, we don't know. He kind of has to be if she's seen parts of Amarantha when she's never seen her before. Tamlin and Lucian have not talked about her to the extent where she would be able to form a picture of her. So it has to be coming from Rhys. But he does mention also in book 2, when he's talking about all of this, that at one point the dreams stopped being blurry. And he assumes it's because at that point she went from being on the human side of the wall to being on the Fae side of the wall. And so that's when he knew she was in Prythian. And that's actually why he comes to Callan Mai, is to seek her out. Because that's another part that he sees are the fires being built for Callan Mai, and he gets Amarantha to agree to let him go. And that's when he meets her for the first time.
So do you think it's him, like, looking through what she's saying? So do you think that he sees her face yet? Or is it just him looking at her point of view?
I think it's just him looking at her point of view, kind of being like a third party.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to describe it like when you're playing a video game and the character is in front of you, so you can't see their face because they're facing away from you. And if you turn, like, you move with the character.
Well, that's the way I was picturing it.
Yes, yep,
Yeah.
that's how I picture it as well. We do get an interesting interaction because Feyre wakes up in the middle of the night, or she can't sleep, and comes down, hears some screaming of a wounded creature, and finds Tamlin bringing a fairy into the foyer, and the fairy has had its wings sawed off. Feyre asks if Tamlin can help him. He says no, he doesn't have enough magic, essentially, to be able to help. So the only thing that they're able to do is just kind of stay there with him as the fairy dies. This is the first time, too, that we get the death prayer. It's the first time Feyre is really hearing it. So I think it's interesting later on when she actually uses it. But it says, "Cauldron save you, mother hold you." So assuming that the mother is the one who tipped the cauldron over into their world, pass through the gates and smell that immortal land of milk and honey, fear no evil, feel no pain, go and enter eternity, which I think is interesting. And we're going to revisit that later. That interaction with them does give them an idea what drives the other. At one point, Tamlin asks her, why did you come down? Why are you helping when you hate fairies? You've killed a fairy. Why are you doing this? And her response is, because I wouldn't want to die alone, because I'd want someone to hold my hand until the end and a while after that. That's something everyone deserves, human or fairy. And then she apologizes for killing Andrus. A little bit of foreshadowing, I think, because we see that happen at the end of book 1, which we can talk about then. But it makes me wonder, is this also a part that Rhys sees based on how things progress, how things go in the end of book 1? We'll put a pin in that one. But I do like that we start to see that Feyre and Tamlin are understanding that they are similar because of their responsibilities, because of the things that they have had to do, because they're both kind of thrust into this responsibility of caring for others when it was not something they were trained for or something they had planned to do. So they're kind of creating a bond based off of that they have some shared past, shared responsibilities. So you start to see Tamlin kind of softening to her a little bit. And then we get the sense that Feyre isn't as guarded towards him towards the end of this section of chapters as she has been at the beginning. The Pool of Starlight. So there is a lot of discussion on what this pool is. This is pretty much the only mention of it throughout the series. So we do get some description from Feyre on it. It is a sparkling silver pool. It's not water, but something infinitely more precious. Tamlin does tell her it is made of starlight. So again, stars, starry night, night sky, stars theme going on throughout the whole thing. She does mention it being thicker than water but thinner than oil, feels like being wrapped in warm silk or like you're floating in air. And that every ache in her body oozed away to nothing. So it seems to have some healing properties. Also, going to point out when we talk about Tamlin and his lack of desire to actually lead, he mentions that he has no idea how this place came to be because he never cared enough to ask. Literally says it, never cared enough to ask. Why not?
Tamlin's Tamlin.
Right? Ugh, Tamlin. If you forget about all the stuff that's going to come between her and Tamlin and you ignore all these little like yellow to red flags that we start seeing with him, he's not terrible yet. Like, he's not a bad person. He's just not as good as others. He's not doing as good of a job, is how I'm going to put it. He's being kind of cute and kind of flirty with her, doing the whole let's go skinny dipping in the pond of starlight kind of thing, laughing about the wine with Lucian. So he's not a terrible person, and you can kind of understand why Feyre is, I don't want to say falling in love with him because I don't think she's there yet, but she's becoming more open to the idea of him and is being less scared of him because in the end, he's giving her what she needs right now, which is safety, to be taken care of, and to have enough time to paint. He's taking care of her family. That's it. That's all she's ever wanted. And he's giving her that. And she's grateful for it. But she's also, even like, she's just gotten her paints. She's just gotten to a point where she's accepted that he's taking care of her family. And even just getting to that point, she's already feeling like he's just trying to distract her from everything else that's happening. So I think there's a lot of foreshadowing through most of, if not all, of her interactions with both Tamlin and Lucian. At one point, she's thinking about the 7 High Lords who rule Prythian and thinks, maybe is there a High Lady? Was that even possible? At another point, Lucian tells her that if she doesn't stop acting interested in the Suriel, this is before she goes to catch it, that he'll tell Tamlin to put her under house arrest. So we talked about this in the last episode, that it was mentioned twice already. Now we have a third time that it's mentioned. And then also in this set of chapters, after Tamlin saves her from the Naga, he asks if he wants to know what she's been doing out here. And she says, I thought I wasn't confined to the house and garden. 4 times. 4 times now that has been mentioned. I also think it's interesting that she mentions, one, not wanting to be caught up in a brutal war or a revolution, and that's after she hears them talking about the borders of all the courts falling. But at the same time, she kind of realizes that no one's been answering her questions or encouraging her to ask more questions. And at one point, when she's waiting to catch the Suriel, she is wondering how Tamlin and Lucian haven't gotten tired of living in the Spring Court, where it's eternally spring. She mentions that it would be great when she was living in the humanoid world and had to hunt daily, that it would have been great for it to always be spring. But she specifically says, if I were immortal, I might want a little variation to pass the time. I'd probably want to do more than lurk about a manor house. So I'm going to say that's 5. 5 times now that we foreshadowed being left in the Spring Court mansion. It had me chuckling. At one point, Tamlin has just asked her if she needs help writing the letter. She says no. And she kind of thinks about, well, I can't ask Lucian either. And she says, because Lucian seemed convinced that I would turn spy the moment I could write. Foreshadowing? I also love that, like, Lucian's room is in a completely separate wing of the house. Like, separate wing, separate floor, far from mine is how she describes it. Far from mine. When that's not the case, when we get to book 3, all the little snippets that get added throughout the first book that I'm seeing now, having read it multiple times, picking up on these things, I'm just Foreshadowing. I was also going to bring up that we're getting a sense of who Feyre is at this point through this section and then through the next set of chapters as well. She describes herself as being ignorant, illiterate, unremarkable, proud, cold. Those are all words that Nesda, her sister, has used to describe her. So we're seeing her kind of start to realize that all of the wounds, the internal wounds that she has, kind of stem from things that Nesda has said. But we also get a good sense that she may not be, a good reader. She may not be book smart, but she is street smart. We get it mentioned multiple times that she feels like she's come to a point where she makes the correct decisions, either because she's made the wrong decisions in the past or she's figured out what the wrong decision is and has avoided that. So I think we start to see that more and more. And you see Feyre mention shortcomings in regards to herself all the time, but it makes me wonder if she doesn't actually have those shortcomings. It's just stuff that Nessa has said to her, so it's in her brain because of that, and she believes it because of that, but it's not really the case. Because in all honesty, Nessa didn't do anything to help them survive. Feyre did. She learned. And we start to see through this set of chapters, Tamlin is kind of recognizing that too. And we'll talk about it, I think, more in the next episode as well, how much she has taught herself. And Tamlin is realizing that she has gone above and beyond to survive, even without having zero help. No one has been there to support her. She has had to do it pretty much all on her own. And I think he's kind of realizing at this point that that's what she needs right now is someone to help care for her. Or at least that's who he wants to be. Whether she actually wants that herself once she figures out what she wants is a whole other story. We end this bank of chapters meeting the Adder. We don't officially get to see him, but we do get a description of him. Feyre says he can't see him, but Tamlin and Lucien are clearly speaking to someone who is there with a disembodied voice. While overhearing them, we can assume the she that he works for is the one that's been mentioned that everybody fears. And we also get our second mention of Tamlin's heart being made of stone. Just going to throw it out there. Lucien mentioned it once in speaking to Tamlin and Feyre overheard. And now the Adder has also mentioned it to Tamlin while Feyre is overhearing. So she is great at eavesdropping, we'll put it that way. She's not great at putting all the pieces together yet, but she's great at eavesdropping. We do learn in this bank of chapters that Tamlin is a shapeshifter and that his gifts allow him to shift himself and others. That's how Andros became a wolf, because Tamlin shifted him into a wolf so that it was easier for him to cross the border and hopefully get killed being a wolf. Oh, I will also point out one more thing. We start to get a sense that Tamlin likes to handle things on his own. So it kind of ties all back into him not wanting to be the High Lord, in the sense that he is not letting others help. He is choosing to do it all by himself, because he says that he is the one who has to go out and fight the bog. He will not let anybody else help him. And when Feyre tries to help him or wants to help him bury the dead fairy with the sawed-off wings, he tells her no, to go back to bed because he will do it on his own. So we start to see him acting like he doesn't want a partner. He just wants someone to stay at home at the manor and just frolic through the grasses or something. We did get information on Lucien too. I completely skipped that part.
His family.
Yeah, and the mate, because then they talk about the mate bond.
Following that, though, I loved the moment where he handed her his knife and is like, "Don't put it in my back." Like, I loved that interaction so much with them, because you start getting that burgeoning. Is it friendship? Does he want to be a better fairy,
Right?
better person, better? Yeah, and so I really liked seeing that, and it didn't click again. First read through, so for me, second read through, I'm starting to notice the things of why I liked what I liked in the moment. So I think it's been fun to experience for that. But you get that moment right after she hears about his family, so it was almost a opening the emotions to, hey,
Yes.
let me have some sympathy for him. Oh no, wait, let's be friends. Like, it was
Right.
kind of a very, very smooth way. Sarah just kind of oh, we're gonna open our hearts to someone and then we'll let him in a little
Right?
bit.
Yeah. Like
And it's just
that transition.
beautiful way to do it.
Yep. From them being enemies essentially to, okay, maybe we can be friends.
Like that begrudging, like, oh, you're my older brother's friend. You don't suck, but I'm not gonna say you're cool.
Right.
Like,
It's a perfect way to describe it.
trust me, I have a lot of sibling relationship stuff I can tie back to older brothers when it comes to these stuff that I didn't realize till now.
I do think it's interesting that we do get a little talk about the mate bond and it being described as being deeper than marriage, that it like overrides any other relationship. So, a little foreshadowing there too. What else? Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about in this section? By the way, Feyre mentions that she hates the smell of books, which just goes even further to tell you that she is not a book lover because she says, what is it? She mentions that she hates the smell of these old books, the decaying rot of the pages. And I'm like, really? No,
You're
ma'am.
like, I like the decayed flesh, okay?
Right?
I like
We
decayed
love
shoe
the
flesh.
smell of books. But it does make me wonder, is that actually how she's describing the smell of books? Or is there something rotting and decaying in the spring court that affects the smell of the books?
I mean, something could be glamored, but we noticed her sense of smell catches more.
Right?
That is
And
possible.
she does mention when she's out into the western woods to find the cereal, as she's walking out into the forest, she thinks, I'm probably the first human in 500 years or more who has walked beneath those heavy, dark branches to inhale the freshness of spring leaves masking the damp, thick rot. So I don't know if that's just in regards to the decaying of leaves after they're on the ground for so much time, or if it's a reference to an actual rot or decay in the spring court.
You know, now that you say that, it gives me and just tells me I watched too much TV when I was younger. Makes me think of that episode of Sabrina the Teenage Witch where she's too jealous and she starts rotting inside out, so she has to wear a dress of flowers. I don't know why, but talking about imagery that came through as you said that. But it makes me think that I'm going to need to pay attention, you know, my perspective going through second reads, going into the second book when they're doing a lot more patrolling and stuff. No spoilers, but just I'll stop there. Makes me want to pay attention to how much that's mentioned going forward, going through her different paths.
Right.
The smell of rot is something that I never paid attention to. Like I've highlighted the Kindle like insane about the metallic smells and how she's changed because through these chapters, the one thing I will say is she started to describe she can smell the wind picking up the tang of magic and blowing it away, or she's noticing it ebbing and flowing more.
Mm-hmm.
But she's also constantly mentioning that it's there now.
Yes.
So you start as a reader seeing that she's smelling it more and smelling it more. So now that you're pointing out the rot side of it, I almost want to go forward and pay more attention to rot than I do the metallic smell of magic. And I'm not sure why, but now like there's something pulling at my brain from, hey, you noticed the first read through, but what is it? What am I missing now?
Right.
So I'm
And it just
like now I'm like, all right, let's go into the second book. Come on, let's go.
right. I know, I'm ready. It just makes me wonder, like, is it just the wording that Sarah has used to describe it? Is it because that's actually what happens, you know, when leaves are on the ground for a while? Or is it because Sarah is trying to hint at this staleness of the spring court? Because, spoiler alert, we learn later on that other courts don't do the same thing as what the spring court does, that other courts have kind of evolved and started new things, tried new things. They've changed to kind of adapt to a new world. And so I don't know, like, is this just Sarah's way of saying that the spring court hasn't, that they haven't tried to change or grow, even though they are literally the court of growth, being spring. So I don't know which one it is, but it makes me wonder.
Interesting.
And I agree. As much as I hate winter, I don't think I could live in spring all the time.
You wouldn't want to come out here. Just saying. Although that might be okay. So I have a question for y'all. It's a lot drier out here, of course. We don't have much rot in terms of even the dead leaves. Dead leaves smell crunchy and dewy and like September, October out here. I don't ever get the moldy of the leaves because stuff doesn't stay wet enough out here.
Yeah.
Do you guys actually get a mold to leaves? Like, can you smell the mold in the air with the leaves after a
Yeah.
certain time? Really?
Yeah.
It's really earthy though.
Sorry,
It's like a
side note, but
No, I mean, that's,
totally.
yeah, it's
His perspective, I would have never thought
exactly.
decaying leaves. So I went straight to something rotting because
Mhm.
I'm thinking left out food,
Yep. Because in your
cat puke.
area, you don't
My-
have that. Yeah, no, it is definitely they start decaying, and it's a very, like Kay said, very earthy dirt.
and wet smell, especially if there's
Yeah.
lots of layers. It's just
Yep.
Yeah, it's not a good smell.
I pointed it out because I'm used to that.
And you said it, and I'm like, wait, what? Really?
That's it for episode 2 of our deep dive into ACOTAR Book 1. Join us next time where we discuss chapters 20 through 32. Just read it, okay?